What's going on, guys? My name is Matt, and beyond putting Pokemon Ruby Red on my phone a long time ago, I have no experience with emulation. So what I decided to do was put together a $300 Emulation Gaming PC to see what it's like to emulate some old console games. Before I get any further in the video, I want to give a big shout out and thanks to GVG Mall for sponsoring this video and allowing me to activate Windows 10 on this computer for only $13 thanks to their super inexpensive Windows 10 keys. You can check them out in the description down below, or wait till later in the video for more information. Now, before I reveal all the parts of this build, I do want to go over a few disclaimers. The first is that this PC is using used parts. With that being said, a lot of these parts can be found easily for the prices that I paid. The second disclaimer is that this PC isn't meant to be the best price to performance system ever. It's just meant to emulate a console and also look like a console. With all that out of the way, let's go ahead and get into the parts that make up this $300 Emulation Gaming PC. From what I've read online, you really shouldn't skimp out on your CPU in an emulation PC, and for that reason, I went with this i7-2600 that I picked up locally for $65. This was a really good deal as the average selling price on eBay for this CPU is around $80 right now. This is a quad-core Sandy Bridge based CPU with hyper-threading, with a decent clock speed of 3.4 GHz base and 3.8 GHz boost. This 2600 holds up really well even in modern AAA titles. The CPU is going in this Asus H61 ITX motherboard. Like I said in the intro, I wanted this machine to be the size of a console, so going ITX was a must. This board was $45 on eBay, and that's actually pretty close to the standard going rate of an ITX H61 board. While this is a basic board, it still has nice features like USB 3 and a full 16x PCIe slot for a graphics card. Cooling this CPU is this Intel stock cooler that I had on hand. It's basic, but it gets the job done, and I'm valuing it at around $5, as you should easily be able to find one at that price. Also, a big plus of the stock cooler is that it's very low profile, making it a good fit for our small enclosure. For RAM, I used a single 8GB stick of G.Skill Aegis DDR3 at 1600 MHz. This I actually got new recently. Newegg had 16GB kits of this for $55, and I used one stick from the kit, making it $27.50 for 8GB of memory. While DDR3 is old, it's considerably cheaper than DDR4, and for our purposes, it works just fine. For the graphics card, I went with the tried and trusted GTX 750 Ti. This low profile 750 Ti I got from eBay a while ago for around $50. I've somehow managed to lose the I/O bracket, but it still works perfectly fine. The 750 Ti runs off of only power from the PCIe slot, making it a very efficient card. While the 750 Ti is pretty old, it's still the go-to budget GPU for many of you out there. For storage, I went with the 256GB SSD I had on hand. SSDs are really cheap right now, so I'm valuing this drive at around $35, which you could easily find a new equivalent drive for at that price. 256GB is more than enough for our OS, emulation software, ROMs, and even a few regular PC games. But if you find yourself running out of space, upgrading storage is easy and relatively inexpensive. For the PSU, I went with this very silver but surprisingly reliable 300W FSP SFX PSU. You may not have heard of FSP, but they make great PSUs and are an OEM to many of the name brand power supply companies like EVGA and Corsair. 300 watts is more than enough for this system, and while this unit is a little loud and it has ketchup and mustard cables, it definitely gets the job done. I got this power supply on Hardware Swap a while ago for $25, which for an SFX PSU is a pretty good deal. Finally, the case, which really makes the system look like a console. This is the Silverstone ML09 HTPC case. At only 7 liters, it's on par size-wise with the Dan Case A4 for a fraction of the price. I picked this up a while ago for $40 and have used this case for a few projects. It only supports low-profile GPUs, but for me that was fine. Assembly in this case went really smooth and it booted up first try. Once this was done and the OS was installed, it was time to activate Windows. To do this, I headed over to GVG Mall, added a Windows 10 Pro key to my cart, I used the code TBMW for 20% off, and checked out. After a few minutes, I had my key and was ready to activate Windows. I headed into the PC settings to the Activate Windows page and hit Change Product Key. I entered in the key from GVG Mall and hit activate Windows. And boom, Windows is activated for only $13 thanks to today's sponsor, GVG Mall. Make sure to check them out in the description for their links and discount codes. In terms of testing, I originally wanted to emulate GameCube and PS2 games, but I wasn't able to get the PS2 emulator working in time for the video, so I just ended up emulating some GameCube games and tested some regular PC games out to gauge its performance. To emulate the GameCube games, I used a program called Dolphin, which was pretty easy to set up and use. I'll leave links to the Dolphin emulator and a tutorial for it in the description down below. It even has some cool features like the ability to turn internal resolution all the way up to 5K. For me, I just set it to 1080p and it worked fine. To play games, you need ROMs in the form of ISO files. I can't tell you where to get them, but generally speaking, if you own a copy of a game, it's fine to emulate it. I played around with 3 GameCube games. These include The Incredible Hulk Ultimate Destruction, Sonic Adventure 2, and Dragon Ball Z Budokai 2. All of these games ran really well at 1080p internal resolution and 60 FPS. I think I had the most fun playing the DBZ game, and it looks surprisingly good for how old of a game it is. Like I said before, I wanted to emulate some PS2 games, but couldn't get the PC SX2 emulator working correctly. Because of this, I think I'll make a follow-up video emulating PS2, as well as trying some more ambitious titles like Breath of the Wild and Mario Odyssey on a Wii U emulator. If that's something you'd like to see, let me know in the comment section down below. Moving on to PC titles, I just tested 2 games, Overwatch and Rainbow Six Siege. In Rainbow Six, when not recording, at 1080p high settings I was getting a 55 FPS average, which was a pretty decent experience but didn't help the fact that I'm awful at this game. The second game tested was Overwatch. At 1080p with the medium preset, I was getting an average of 93 FPS. This was a great experience and shows the 750 Ti is still a great card for lighter PC games. As you can see, this is a pretty capable machine for $300 with the ability to emulate consoles and play PC games. Like I said before, I'll try and make a follow-up video with more emulation if that's something you guys want to see. The fact this PC can both play and look like a console makes me pretty satisfied with the end result. I definitely enjoyed my first experience with emulation and can't wait for the next opportunity to try it again. So yeah guys, I think this wraps this video up. I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you did, make sure to give this video a big thumbs up, as well as consider subscribing. And this is Matt from Tech by Matt, signing out.